And it's such an honor to be seen as a leader, to be perceived and received as a leader. So I'll be honest with you. Yes, I did prepare. But it's not like I took weeks preparing, because I've known about this for at least a month. And it came to me within the last 24 hours. And I'm going to go ahead and just shoot it to you straight. And what I want to start with is just a really little bit about me and my story, because I don't know most of you, either watching live or watching the replay, and you probably don't know me from the Man in the Moon. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Tamira Hamilton, and historically I've always said I'm a beauty blogger. I blog about the business of beauty. In the last 6 months, I have taken a redirection in my business, and I focus more now on coaching and training. I do believe my spiritual gift is that of education and training. So that is what I have been doing. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin, which is about an hour south of here. You probably know Milwaukee from Laverne and Shirley or Happy Days, the brewery that never existed. Just 2 hours north of Chicago. I grew up in a single parent home, the oldest of 3 children in that home, the only child that my parents had together, but between his, hers, and ours, I have a total of 5 brothers and sisters. The household that I grew up in, being my mother, my youngest brother, Jared, fully disabled. So I had a lot of responsibility and was always put in positions of leadership as a child. And I actually was given a lot of adult type duties at a very early age. I also remember in 3rd grade, I believe, parent-teacher conference, the teacher pulled my mom aside and told my mom, she's college material, you make sure she goes to college. And I remember not too soon after that, I was at my dad's house, and he and my other mom, my oldest sister, her and I were in bed, and we were talking, and I said, I'm going to college. This is going somewhere, I promise. I'm going to college. And she said, how are you going to do that? That's going to be very expensive. And anybody want to guess what I said? I don't know, but I'm going to college. Once I heard that teacher tell my mother that I was going to college, there was no doubt in my mind that I would be going to college. So even when at the age of 17, I found myself pregnant with my oldest daughter, who is now 27, there was still no doubt in my mind that I was going to college. And I did. And my daughter went to college with me. I didn't live on campus, but there were times when babysitter and all of that wasn't in order. My daughter, literally, when she was old enough, would go to class with me. And I want you to take this story and really understand from a mindset standpoint. I determined by the age of 9 that I was going to college, and there was nothing but death that was going to keep me from going to college. My older sister had determined, when we had that conversation, and she was 2 years older than I am, that college was too expensive, that college wasn't for people like her, okay? Now, my sister owns a home, she's married, children, she has done well. We chose different paths in life, but I want you to understand the difference that mindset believes. Now, I don't think that college is the be-all, end-all. It's just to drive home the point that it all begins up here. It begins with a decision. And the title of this training is Your Mindset Determines Your Altitude. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Tamira, I thought it was your attitude that determines your altitude, right? Have you heard that before? I'm sure you have, right? Your attitude determines your altitude. ATTALT. Attitude determines your altitude. And we can't have a discussion on mindset without also having a discussion on attitude, okay? Because your mindset is just a collection of your attitudes, okay? Are y'all with me? You still here? I see all the hearts and stuff have stopped, okay? Your attitude is basically what your mindset is. So you're going to have different mindsets about success, different mindsets about what marriage and relationships are like. You're going to have different mindsets about what work ethic is, and you're going to have different mindsets about money and just about everything under the sun. We receive all kinds of messages our entire life, right? You have all kinds of conversations going on in your head all day, every day. Over 2,000 different messages can be perceived like in a second, just visually alone, okay? And all of that is determining your mindset. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, especially as it relates to my background and my story, is your money mindset. I was the first person in my direct line generationally to go to college, right? So I was told, and I believed that if the mindset, right? I believed that if I graduated high school, check, I've already done something that most people, I wasn't the first, but I've done something that most people, including my parents, had not done. They have GEDs. I've done that, right? And if I went beyond that and went to college, check, I was on my road to success. And then get a good job and live happily ever after. The vision pretty much ended after graduating college. Because here's what happens. Once we've achieved a goal, the brain doesn't know what to do. It's like, okay, we've achieved this goal. What do we do now? And the only goal that had been spoken to me by the generations ahead of me was to go to school, go to college, and get a good education. Okay. Luckily, I was pregnant with my second child, and luckily, this whole concept of creating a legacy entered into my head, and I wrote a business plan for myself and for my life and what I wanted to achieve in the big overall, because I'd learned how in my internship in college, how to write a vision and a mission statement. And so the overall vision for myself was to create a legacy for my family, okay? Something that was going to outlive me and set my family on a different financial path. And so that became my guiding document, what I was going to do with my life. And what happened is at the age of 25, tragedy struck. My 21-year-old sister was killed by her children's father. So I'm in the hospital watching my 21-year-old sister on life support. The back of her cortex was blown out of her head, and if she had survived that, she would have lived to be in a vegetative state. She never would have been the same again. And before she passed away, I remember looking at her in the hospital bed and thinking, it should not have been her, it should have been me. Because I was meaner. My children were older. My oldest daughter was old enough to make sure that my younger daughter remembered me, where her boys were ages 2 and 1. The likelihood of them remembering their mother was very slim to none, okay? And what I did was I took that experience, and I remember talking to someone at work about it when I went back to work a couple weeks later, and they're like, I just don't know how your family is handling it. How are you guys able to handle this? And this was one of my first mindset lessons. And I told her, I said, we have no choice but to handle it by thinking that God had a bigger plan. And when I look at it, I have to believe that because those boys are now going to be raised by my parents, instead of this monster who shot their mother, that was part of the reasoning behind it, okay? So when things happen to us, I'm going to sound cliche here for a second. It's not about how we react. We have to craft a response, right? At that moment in time, the only response that I could come up with in order to make it through that tragedy was that God had a bigger plan, right? And he not only had a bigger plan for those boys, but he had a bigger plan for my life. My entire life had been about getting out of my mama's house, getting out and being and doing more than everyone else in my family. Not as a slight to them, not because I thought I was better than them, but because I knew that God had more for me in my life, okay? But I also want to talk to you about your money mindset as it relates to me being the first person who went to college and graduated in my family, okay? So the first thing I want you to understand is that you have been told messages, and I'm not here to preach prosperity gospel or anything like that, but these are just things that I have really been working on in myself in the last 6 months, and things that have really, like, I see somebody talking about a paradigm shift, right? That have really been working through in order for me to get through and get to where I'm going. And I hope it's going to benefit someone here tonight, okay? You have been hearing messages your entire life. So let me know in the comments if you've heard any of these messages. Money doesn't grow on trees. Can you drop a tree emoji or a number 1 in the comments if you've ever heard that? Money doesn't grow on trees. I'm sure someone here has heard money doesn't grow on trees, right? Another one that I heard, and it hit me really strongly. There was something happening, and I heard myself saying it because my grandfather, just so you know, my grandfather on my mother's side was very much a saver and very frugal. My grandmother, on the other hand, woman loves to shop. Okay, so one of the messages I have taken from her is you can't take it with you. In other words, you might as well spend it anyway. Okay, and one of the big mindsets that I have been working on is that I am obligated to help my family because I have achieved a certain level of success, because I have achieved certain things in my life, that I am obligated to help my family, okay? And that's going to shape the rest of our discussion here tonight, okay? Because I need you to understand those messages combined with experiences. I started working, probably my first job when I was 12. I was babysitting for my aunt. I got paid a whole $30 like for the month. I come home from school every day and babysit. And then I went and I worked in an actual factory, assembling, like if Avon was doing some promotional kit, we would put those little promotional kits and we made minimum wage. And what that really reinforced me wanting to go to college, because I was like, I do not want to work like this for the rest of my life. And it wasn't even like hard labor like my grandfather building tractors, but it just put that in me. And from there, I went to work at McDonald's. And oh my God, did I learn so much working at McDonald's. But here is what happened. I would save money, right? I would actually have like stacks of checks in my drawer at home, because I was only like 14, 15, 16 years old. And my mother would make me cash my checks and give her money to pay her rent. I would have to pay to get the car that she was driving fixed, but she wouldn't even get up and drive me to work at McDonald's at 5 a.m. and there was no bus that could get me there. So if she didn't take me, I couldn't get to work unless I asked someone else for a ride. And if I knew I had enough time, I would do that, right? And so what that taught me was I needed to start spending my money so that she couldn't get it. And so that's what I did. And what that also impacted was my relationship with my children as they became teenagers, and I now was in the mother position. I was not going to charge them rent because I felt it was my responsibility as the mother to provide for them and not have them pay rent to me, okay? So what you have to do is learn what those money messages are, because I know that those have been inhibiting me from getting to the next level of success, right? One of the big things that has again, been in my head and that I've been working on for the last 6 months or more is I didn't even know it, y'all. Because most people look at me and I look at myself and I think I'm a person with pretty high self-confidence, pretty high self-esteem. But I have gotten to certain levels and then felt like, okay, I'm good. Not out of laziness, almost out of fear, but really more so feeling that I didn't deserve that next level, that I didn't deserve abundance, that I didn't deserve prosperity. And the simple fact is, I can't do God's work without it. I see lots of hearts, so that's good. It seems to be resonating with you, and that's good because I'm literally just the messenger right now, okay? So you have to sit down when you are having those moments, and you have to sit down, and what I do, y'all, is I just journal. I just, first of all, acknowledge the feeling and why I'm feeling that way. What is going on, and why am I feeling this way? And next is so important. You have to take action in that moment. Because if you don't take action in that moment, then I see somebody said new levels, new devils. That's exactly what happens. Then the devil takes over, okay? So you have to take action in that moment. And yes, believe that you are deserving of something, right? So what I'm working on and what I'm being vulnerable and being transparent and sharing with you is exactly that. Feeling that, one, I'm deserving of more, and two, that I don't have to, and I've been working on this a lot longer, I don't have to take my family with me, and I don't owe them anything. I remember the first time, because y'all, it kept going with my mother, and it's not like she was a drug addict or anything like that. She was mean, but she wasn't a drug addict. Even as I was an adult and had my own children, the entire family, whenever somebody needed something financially, they were coming to me, right? And I remember the first time I told her no. Like, I had bounced checks. I took out payday loans to help people once I'd exhausted on my own finances. And I had to learn to start saying no to that, okay? And I only bring that up for you to understand you've got to acknowledge these things. You have to understand that you can't take everybody with you because it's too costly. It's too expensive. They've got to want it. You can't want it more for them. And again, translating it to the present, even my own children who are now 27 and 21, there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. And I have a 4-year-old grandson who will be 5. And if you know anything about me, he's the light of my life. I love me some little Tristan Carter. But I still now have boundaries. I have to say, okay, you come to me, I'm giving you my advice. This is what I think. I love and support you no matter what, but I am not taking that issue on. That is not my issue. You got debt. Here's what I think you should do to tackle that debt. Here are your options, but your debt is not my new why for me to run with my business. It's just not. Because you are an adult, I raised you, I gave you my best, I gave you the best of everything. You're an adult. I love that you can be in communication with me and you can come and talk to me about these things. But at the end of the day, it is your job to take care of your son. It is your job to take care of you, and you are responsible. I didn't have any parts of creating that debt. That's on you, right? So we have to acknowledge these things, and by acknowledging them, I'm able to say, okay, so when this happens, now I can craft my response. Because has anybody ever had that conversation where you're having a conversation with somebody and you feel backed in the corner and you're like, wow, they just got me. I don't know what to say. And then hours later, it's like, well, I should have said this. You know what I do? I actually write it down. So that I remember, because chances if it happened once, it's going to happen again. So I really think maybe the overall theme of this is generational curses, because that's something that has been really part of my overall mission with raising my children. I had one at 18, her turned 18 one Tuesday, had a baby the next, had my second at 23. I've been very proud of the fact that my 18-year-old saw me walk across the stage. She was only 3 months old, high school. She saw me walk across for a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, okay? But it from the moment that I knew that I was having her, number one, I fell in absolute love. Two, it was about breaking generational curses. And actually, before that, I was disappointed in myself. I didn't want to be pregnant at 17 because my mother had me at 15 and her mother had her at 15. So I didn't want to do that. But then what did I do? I changed my perspective. At least I made it to 17 and I was 18 when I had her, right? And guess what? She didn't have her son until she was in her 20s. So I'm like, I did something good. Right? So again, you're not what happens to you. I don't really dwell on the single mother thing because it's really almost kind of like a non-issue in 2019. I don't want to brush over it too lightly, though. I would not have wanted to see my daughter pregnant at 15, and I'm glad I didn't. And I did everything to make sure that that didn't happen. But you can overcome anything if you really decide to. Okay, and so that's the whole thing, that you have to, my notes, I got way too far here. You have to decide that you are going to change your mind, okay? You cannot get to where it is that you are going without a changed mind. I'm just finding my note here. Okay, so you have to catch yourself in those thoughts and switch to something positive. What is it that you can be grateful for? And you have to want to accomplish something, but you have to first expect it. Just like I said in the beginning, I expected there was nothing but death that was going to keep me from going to somebody's college. There just wasn't. And not even being 17 and pregnant. Sorry about that. Nobody ever calls me. And so I want you to write this one down. You can expect what you accept. So when you're talking about those generational curses and the toxicity and things with your family, it is really what you accept. You can expect what you accept. Okay? That has been like a mantra that really keeps me going, because nobody can do any more to you than what you let them do. And you have to set those boundaries, and you can still love people and love them from a distance. Okay? And then I'm going to get ready and close, and I can answer any questions. But there is nothing more powerful than a changed mind, okay? And I gloss over a lot, and I make it sound really, really easy. But if you only knew some of the challenges I've had dealing with my family, and while many people pushed me to go and to get a college education and get that good job, when I started to achieve some of those things, jealousy and ugly things started really, really playing a part of my life, and some of it, much of it, from my own mother, okay? And I still do not regret having, at whatever age, determined that where I came from did not define me, and I changed my mind. I still love where I come from. It shaped who I am, but it does not define me. I wanted, and I still want more. I'm not there, y'all. I'm not there. I'm nowhere near there. But I still get up every day with the right collective set of attitudes, right? And when I don't, I've learned to acknowledge it and be present. Like, okay, this is the wrong attitude, sister girl. You need to fix this. You need to go get your mind right. Go in your prayer closet and get your mind right. I want you to know, before I do a training like this, I allot a good 3 to 4 hours to shower, take my time, my self-care, get pretty for y'all. And that last half an hour is really just me sitting with God and praying that I put the right message out there and that He uses me to touch someone, and that, you know, I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I really am searching for the message. I'm really searching to make sure that I get the words out and tell the story in a way that is going to touch someone, okay? Because it all begins and ends in your mind, okay? If you want to change what's going on in your outside world, it will not happen until you change what is going on in your inside world. And the number one person you're having conversations with, your number one hater is not anyone outside of you. Your number one hater is going to be yourself. And you have to learn how to put yourself in check and be fully aware and present when your self conversations are going down the wrong path. I know the month of January, it's like the devil is just sitting at the foot of my bed, right? I have to make sure during those times that I've got my people in place, that I'm doing somebody's coaching and training and mastermind, to keep those self conversations, because I want you to understand, a lot of people look at me and I am a very self-confident and aware person. I truly, truly am. But even as self-confident as I am, I still get those feelings too. I still have those negative moments where I'm hard on myself and I'm down on myself. And so it's perfectly normal to have those. It's what you do with them. You can't let them become your life story. You can't let them win. You have to shut them up, okay? You have to be able to fix your mind in order for you to be able to receive the blessings. You will not be able to receive the blessings, because what happens if your mind is not fixed, it has holes and there are going to be leaks. Everything that you're investing in yourself from a training standpoint, from a self-development standpoint, is going to leak back out if you're not continually working and fixing your mind. And that's why your self-development on daily to-do list is so, so important. You have to do that every single day. And that's why it's your number one income producing activity, because that's the only way to fix those leaks, is to hear and sometimes borrow someone else's belief, to hear someone else saying, you can do this, you've got this, okay? And until the mind is right, that's what I just said, until the mind is right, everything else will leak. I'm actually reading handwritten notes. I should have typed them up because my handwriting is horrible. And that is from the perspective of a mind that refuses to change. If a mind refuses to change, there is nothing you can do in terms of the blessings. They're just going to continue to seep out. That's why one of my biggest frustrations with my last company was all the people that went to training and still failed and failed miserably. And that was why, because they went to training and they didn't change their mind. They went to training and they didn't do anything with it. Application plus information equals transformation. That's another one to write down, okay? I'm going to leave you with this and I'll answer questions. And I heard Steve Jobs say this, and it perfectly describes how I feel each and every day. I started building my business in 2013. And like I said, since I was 23 years old, I was working under this mission plan of creating a legacy. What about when your legacy is born on April 14th, 2014, 8.5 pounds, just as handsome as he can be, with a head full of curly hair? There is nothing that will light a fire underneath you like that, okay? The only thing that lit a fire just as equal was being 17 and pregnant. That's the only thing. And raising those girls financially by myself. That's the only other thing that would light, that kind of an intense burning desire, is that whatever your life mission is, whatever your life purpose is. And I heard Steve Jobs say this, or maybe it wasn't him, I fear living a life where I could have accomplished something and I didn't. What Steve Jobs said was basically, if you take away the fear that you are going to die someday, then you pretty much take away your sense of urgency. You take away your life's purpose. And I can tell you, I just turned 45 on January 28th. It speeds up. Every day I feel more and more anxious about, I don't know how much time I have left, and I haven't accomplished what I need to accomplish yet. Okay, that is what should fuel you, and that should override whatever toxic messages you are hearing from anyone else including yourself, is that you do not know how much time you have left, and you owe it to yourself to live out your purpose now while you're here, because nobody's going to talk about what you could have or should have done if you were to pass away tonight in your sleep. They're going to talk about what did you actually do. And so every single day you need to get up and be working on what is it that you can do right now to make the biggest impact. So that is really what I had to talk to you about tonight in terms of your mindset determines your altitude.